Hi there and welcome back or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Amy and I have a somewhat unhealthy obsession with Formula 1. Now, in today's video we are probably discussing the shock Formula 1 move of the decade, Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. Obviously we all saw the rumours like a day or so before it came out. I didn't believe it. I don't think anybody believed it because these rumors come around pretty regularly, at least once a year. It's like Lewis Hamilton Ferrari. We never expected it to actually happen, but it has, and in 2025 he is going to be racing for the promising horses, which I have my opinions on. I don't think that was the best move from either party, but you know, it is what it is, and it is certainly going to make things even more interesting coming into next season. I found out about this quite shockingly at the gym. I was taking a little break. I was in between sets of shoulder presses and then bam, phone lights up and it's like Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari. And ever since then I've been a bit busy with, you know, this thing called life that I haven't really had a chance to like sit down and talk about it. But that isn't really what this video is about. I just thought this is sort of what it's led to. Lewis is obviously leaving a seat vacant at Mercedes, which is a pretty big team on the grid. So who is going to take that spot? It can't just be anyone, right? There are a few options, in my opinion, who are likely to take it. And I've got 5 here that I'm going to go over. Although a few people in these lists have already been confirmed to not have that seat. But that's fine. And also, there are a few others who could potentially get it, but I don't think that's likely because I think they're going somewhere else. First of all, Alex Albon, and as I was scripting this video, it was announced that he has extended his contract at Williams for 2025, so he's probably not going to Mercedes. And he's the one on this list who I thought was most likely, so I'm going to go over him anyway. First of all, he has an amazing relationship with George. Obviously, they've grown up karting together, and George has always supported him and helped him get that seat at Williams in the first place after he was dropped from the sport entirely. They're great friends, they get along well, and I feel like you would have a clear 1-2 dynamic between them, but it wouldn't be super like intense, if that makes sense. Like, they're going to have a good working relationship, and I feel like George and Lewis butted heads quite a few times over the past 2 seasons. Maybe that was part of the reason why Lewis left, is because, you know, this is his team, and now George is the new guy on the block and is like butting heads with him. Anyway, that's just theory. Other than that, Alex is obviously doing absolute bits at Williams, and it has definitely repaired his reputation after his awful time at Red Bull. So I think he would be a pretty strong choice for Mercedes. Obviously, Williams and Mercedes have a pretty good relationship between them as well, with George coming up from Williams to Mercedes, same as Bottas, same as Rosberg. So like, it's a pretty clear working relationship between them, and Mercedes obviously supplies engines to Williams, so this would just make sense in my brain. Next up, another driver who's pretty likely to get it, if he has an absolutely amazing season, Kimi Antonelli. Now, I covered this guy in my video on F2, but basically he's a Mercedes junior, and he is so good that he has fully skipped F3 and just gone straight to F2. That's how good he is, and everybody is so excited to see what he does. I'm so excited to see what he does. But that Formula 2 field this season, absolutely stacked, so we will see. And also, is it a brilliant idea to take a complete rookie and throw him into one of the biggest teams on the grid, like right off the bat? Like, I know pretty much Max did that, I know Lewis pretty much did that as well, but those are like generational talents. And if what we've seen from Kimi so far is true, he is likely to be a generational talent as well. So that is incredibly exciting, but it just depends how his F2 season goes and how he stacks up against all those other drivers. And can they risk putting him in that Mercedes? We'll see. Toto Wolff has come out and said that with losing Lewis, 2025 could be a time for Mercedes to do something new and exciting. So maybe that's what he's talking about. Maybe throw Kimi Antonelli in there, and we'll see. The third driver who I think it is pretty likely to go to is, of course, Carlos Sainz. It would make sense. He is losing his seat at Ferrari to Lewis Hamilton, so a straight swap from there. Other than that, he is an incredibly talented driver. He has a pretty solid fan base as well, so that would do pretty good commercially for Mercedes. He is young, He is fast. He has experience with many other big teams on the grid. Obviously, he has Ferrari, he had McLaren before that, he's had Renault, who's now Alpine, he's had Red Bull experience. Like, he knows his way around the paddock, he knows his way around his cars, he's a really adaptable driver, he always seems to get on top of new cars quickly, so I think it could potentially be really advantageous for Mercedes. Only downside, I think, is, again, clashing with George. I think they both really want to be that number one driver. And up until that point, they were both kind of the number twos. So that could result in people butting heads a bit. Okay, fourth driver. He's a bit older. He's a bit wiser. Probably doesn't have that many years left in his career. Actually, with him, he could probably race for another 20 and we wouldn't even question it. Anyway, it's Fernando Alonso. What I'm thinking is potentially throw him in before you get Kimi Antonelli into that seat. If Kimi needs a few more years in junior formula, which should make sense. He's 17. Let him be. Throw Alonso in there, see what he can do. And Alonso, I'm sure, would love the chance to win another championship. He is also still performing at an incredibly high level. He absolutely smashed Lance Stroll in an Aston Martin. Although that's not very difficult to do. We've seen him absolutely smash it there, and even though Aston Martin is on a similar level to Mercedes, I would still put more faith in Mercedes going forward to produce a better car than Aston Martin. That's just because they have that experience, they have the money, they have the backing to do it. Not that Aston Martin's a particularly small team, but like Mercedes, they know how to win. Obviously, Fernando, very marketable, very popular in Spain, probably more popular than Sainz in Spain, so again, very marketable driver. I think he would do well commercially for the team as well. On top of that, he also has a really good relationship with George, and I feel like George really respects him as an older driver on the grid. You've seen the photos of him at New Year's with those two just like partying it up together, so I think they would get along well. And in a way, I think George wouldn't mind like letting Fernando be first driver for a few seasons because, again, he's an older, more respected driver, again, really experienced, and I think George, still pretty young, obviously incredible, but he could benefit from having that older driver there. And again, I know Lewis is an older driver, but like, to be Fernando's just like leagues above it, in terms of age. And the fifth driver, I think is the least likely on this list, honestly, is Esteban Ocon. I have seen his name floated around a bit in regards to that Mercedes seat. I personally don't see it. That's just me. However, he is still partially managed by Mercedes and Toto Wolff. Toto Wolff obviously being his manager for several years. So it would kind of make sense, but again, him and Alpine do seem to be going pretty well together at the moment, that pairing, that French outfit. But also, him and Pierre don't exactly get along. I mean, they get along better than they used to now, but like, again, I also have a feeling that him and George wouldn't get on either. They both have a history of clashing with teammates, and if you put them two together, I do have a feeling that that's probably going to be the worst teammate dynamic out of everyone on this list. Those are the drivers that everybody else has sort of been talking about as well. I'll just like to float out a few more names, if you don't mind. Daniel Ricciardo. I don't think that's going to happen either, but I'm not going to go a video without mentioning him. Obviously, I still think Daniel's going to go for that Red Bull seat next year. Fingers crossed. But Oscar Piastri as well, potentially. I could see Mercedes poaching him from McLaren, but I don't think he would want to leave McLaren. I think him and Lando have a pretty solid lineup for a few years to come. But that being said, maybe he wants to try his luck in another team to try become a first driver. But like, I feel like it's more likely to happen at McLaren than this Mercedes. You know what I mean? I have seen people talk about Vettel as well, but I don't think Vettel's going to come back. Not for Mercedes, at least. Although German driver, German team. I still don't think that's going to happen, but I have seen people say that. Anyway, those are all the drivers I think could replace Hamilton at Mercedes. Obviously, this is an insane move for him to go to Ferrari, but it is only happening next year, so Mercedes do have time to make it. But also Paul Carlos. What's Carlos going to do if that happens? But also Paul Carlos now, because they've announced it, and now he just has to sit with that team for the whole entire year, knowing he's not driving for them next year. After doing a genuinely really good job for them. Like, I feel so bad for him, but anyway. Who do you think is most likely to replace Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari come 2025? Or do you think it's going to come much sooner than that? Let me know. And of course, like the video if you liked it and press the red button to subscribe for more F1 and motorsport related content. And I will see you all in the next one. Laters!